First item on the agenda is the city council assignments. We'll hear from Jim.
Thank you, Mayor, and I will quickly flip this back to the Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. Just to give the council some background, this is the process that we do every year or every couple of years, kind of depending on circumstances and the council's direction. But this item would establish our council member assignments to your various boards and the ways that you've said you wanted to kind of work on various committees and community groups. So by process, we had solicited your kind of requests or interests for the boards you'd like to serve on, and then I met with the mayor and mayor pro tem, and it's traditionally, it's not an easy job, but they got to kind of figure out how to fill all the slots and move folks around. So with that, I will turn over to the mayor to lead any conversation about how we do it.
Jim. Yeah, like Jim said, we did meet and we kind of had some discussions. What you see in front of you now is not set in stone. I know I've talked to at least one council member that would like to move a couple things on. That's no problem. As mayor, I think people should be, I don't want to say assigned, volunteered and signed up for the ones that you're most interested in. I think that's, I know with me, if I'm interested in something, it's going to, I work just that little bit harder at it. Like Jim did say, though, it's kind of hard picking and choosing, where people are going to go. We didn't get a whole lot of feedback on much. I did get some today that we're definitely going to work with. So if anybody is on this and has any questions on why you're there or anything like that, please speak up. I know Councilwoman Johnson talked to me a little bit earlier, and we'd like to bump her around a little bit. She has been on. I'll go ahead and let you say what you said earlier.
So I've been on the Evans Area Chamber since 2017, and I would like to also kind of do something different, just so I can, be able to be a part of that and also engage with a different area. So I'm not certain if anyone would like to take on the Evans Chamber.
Fred, we were thinking for you on that. Are you available for the Evans Chamber meetings?
I think so.
Okay.
Ryan, we bump me to the.
It's the second Tuesday.
It's the first Thursday of the month, and it's at 6 p.m. And then there's also the after hours, which are the third Thursday of the month. And then events and stuff like that, you can always, be a part of.
If
and
Fred can't make it, I can do it.
You can do it?
I would love to.
It is pretty busy.
It is a busy schedule. It does.
It's fun.
I think it's, well, maybe one of the
I'll stay up on the back.
Okay.
most time-consuming committees. So you definitely want to take on, make sure to take on this specific committee and know that there's an investment of time that you will be also taking on.
I mean, I do want to stay on the Heritage Day just because I'm on that side of town, and it's very important to me.
Well, I do want to just mention, as far as Heritage Day, Jim, Mark, and I did say, you guys have already been working on this already. You guys are already in the process of planning this one, so we wanted to leave that one as is anyway.
And you guys have been doing an awesome job at it, so we don't want to, just keep,
We did not want to change any of
And
that.
then generally, we're on the Finance Committee for 2 years, and I just started last year, so I would like to continue on that. Which is, not that big of a deal.
Sure.
I mean, it is a big deal. Sorry, didn't mean that. I mean, it's just showing up earlier. It's not a separate day.
Right. And Amanda, you were on that. That's good with you for the finance committee.
So, I mean, if there's someone else who's interested in the chamber, like Fred or whatever, but I'm totally available for that. And I don't know what Fred's availability is, but
maybe you guys could switch it, share it, maybe if it becomes too burdensome, you guys could just
I don't know. I mean, is that something that you can do on a regular basis? And
I think so.
Well, here's an idea then, if that's the case.
Yeah.
I was going to be on there as the alternate. However, if we're thinking about using Fred, I can remove myself as the alternate and allow you to do that. And that way that gets you exposure to that. And then I could just continue to stay with 85, 34, all that stuff. And you
The
can
roads,
help.
huh?
Yeah.
So Ally, I know, would you be willing to, because, you know, we don't want to have 3 people there, maybe go to one meeting with Fred and then another meeting with me, the chamber, so to introduce?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Kind of a
I would
transition.
like that, yeah.
Transition.
Yes. I think that's a
And
good
then I can
idea.
be like, if Fred can't make it, he can just give me a call and let me know he's not going to be able to make something. And then I'll have it on my calendar anyway.
And you can always both go.
And we can, yeah, we can both go.
That is
So
true.
that's
That's
true.
an option.
That's true.
Feed
So
off each other.
that's fine. And I also need to tell, I see that Fred has either been volunteered or volunteered for the Citizens Transportation Advisory Board. Just to let you know, Fred, that is a 3 o'clock meeting on Monday, the last, I don't know, 3rd or 4th Monday of every month, usually done at the rec center, and that is an appointed term, so he'll have to actually be appointed through ordinance or whatever, however I was appointed. So.
Great. Are there any other comments or concerns on any of the?
So considering that I'm removing myself out of the events or transitioning out, I did speak to you regarding the Citizens Police Advisory Committee.
Yep.
So I would
So
like
we're going to add Ally to the Citizens. I'm also on that,
Yes.
but we discussed it, and we're just going to either alternate every other one or however that works.
That's a good one.
Jim, you got those couple of changes there?
Yes.
Ally added to CPAC, and
Remove
Chamber will be Councilmember Neal and Councilmember Spear.
correct. All the rest on there looks okay to everyone?
So this is, your own, decision, so we don't have to come back for action, but we will, following this meeting, update this list and send it out to council, so you have the final.
Awesome. Thanks,
That
Jim.
works.
Next item on the agenda is stormwater rate study scoping. We'll hear back from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that followed on the heels of the infrastructure task force and the rate work that the council did last fall on our stormwater projects to get more maintenance going and more capital projects. Part of the discussion at that time was that we really need to look at our rate structure to make sure that the balance between residential and commercial feels right. Right now, they're very close, those rates, and there's really no differentiation between a very large commercial property like Sam's Club and the smallest store frontage. So typically, we know that there are lots of different models out there. And so before we engage this study, which we're wanting to do so that we can have the results back in time for your rate process this fall, we just wanted to come to you and make sure that we're on the same page with a couple of the kind of, I'd call them ground rule directions for any consultant. Those couple of parameters are that, we want to make sure that the rates consider the 2016 Stormwater Master Plan and those priorities that we've started on. We also want, as I said, want to make sure that we are differentiating better between residential and commercial uses, while also keeping ourselves competitive with other communities. Just looking for, that's we think that's important too, that we're not way out of whack with our fees. And then finally, a couple different models that stormwater rate models usually take. One is the one that we have now, which is more of a flat rate model, which means you pay based on your kind of category of property. It might be residential, it might be, you might have several for commercial based on different types, but it's still a flat rate. Another model that some communities use is based on impervious surface, which means that, essentially the stormwater runoff is caused largely by rooftops and driveways and parking lots and all of that impervious surface. Some communities have adopted a model where they, calculate the area of a property and the impervious surface, and then rates are based on, say, square footage of impervious surface. The advantage there is it's probably very fair because it gets to exactly your impact on the stormwater system. I'd say the downside with those is they can be very complex to manage from an administrative standpoint. And so, we think that, or we want to suggest that, especially for residential, we might keep our same flat approach where residences, since there are some 6,000 of them or so, would pay a flat rate, and that we'd start with a flat rate direction to the consultant for commercial too. But at the same time, if there are large properties or things like that that might make sense to look at an impervious surface model, we would ask them about that. But for the most part, we're looking for that flat rate model and not an impervious surface based model. That's probably the most significant assumption that I just wanted to check in with council on, because that'll affect the cost of the study and also our administrative costs significantly. So with that, our next steps would be we would competitively look for the right consultant who's done lots of these studies. We know there are several in the area. We think the study would take about 3 months, and we would bring back to council the results that will be more of a check-in, I would say. Won't be final product, but we'll want to get some policy direction on where we're going with the study once the consultant has some basic data and proposals. That's all I have on that.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions of Jim or staff?
Jim, that model you're talking about sounds something like what really moved to determine their allowed usage of water consumption. So I'm wondering if that model would work similarly on the impervious surfaces to predict.
They've moved for water to what they call a water budget, which does involve basing water rates on demand generated from a certain property, including the number of people who live in a home and fixtures and things like that. So it is much more granular and refined. It's not, I don't think, an exact parallel with the impervious surface model for stormwater, but it's toward that. It's kind of similar idea for water. Yes.
Other questions? Go ahead.
I would definitely say I would lean against the impervious surface and more so for a flat rate, primarily because in my experience, impervious surface is going to add so much cost that it's not going to be of advantage to anyone, period. I think that with the administrative costs and everything else to try and manage that billing would be a nightmare. Plus, with impervious surface, with number of users, with all of those things, you also get into the complexities of kind of that argument of, well, they have and I don't, or whatever that might be, or they're, it can get awfully complex. Stormwater, in my mind, should be very simple. Definitely the most simplistic when you're looking at that. I also think 25,000 is fair, but I'd also love to see how they consider all our other rates. I know in my experience, 30,000 gets a pretty strong full rate study, so 25 may be overdoing it for just storm, but it's also the first time. So you've got to take into consideration your capital plan and your long range projections and all of that. Having said that, I think it would be super advantageous to piggyback that off of the budget, because typically what you'll see is that they'll take those budget projections and build it right into your rate model for you. So it's really advantageous, and with the districts that I work with and the municipalities, they go hand in hand. So as the finance director, I'm working specifically with the rate model specialist to walk through that at the exact same time so that we can build our budget based off of those rates, but they can also build their rate model based off of our projections. So I'd love to be of assistance however I can there, but just keep me posted. So.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing it, because I feel it's just unfair that residents pay $5 less than a commercial.
Yeah.
That's right.
Where the commercial is the one that produces a lot more storm drainage. And I think it needs more equitable as far as residents and those that, so that it makes it fair. So I'm glad that you're looking at the study.
Yeah,
Well, then
I'd like to see, I agree with both these comments. But I also would like to see us not raise anything temporarily, at least for the time being, with any of our residents. I think they've taken a big financial hit with other raises that we've had in other areas. So I would like to focus a little bit more on the commercial aspect of it.
And if we can soften the blow to maybe even roll back the amount on the residents would be really awesome too.
I agree with that.
Just because you, I mean, most people don't roll back prices, it doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Right.
It's true.
Okay.
Well, and those rate specialists do a great job of really looking at neighboring communities and what the trend is based off of communities of a similar size and economic status and all of that. They go through all of those things and say, hey, everybody else is doing this and this makes a lot more sense. So I think you're absolutely right. My expectation would be that I'm guessing they'll come back with a higher commercial and ideally lower residential rate. So
I don't think ours is out of line though. I've seen several other communities and I've seen several in Greeley and even trailer parks that's in the $13 range. I just don't want to be one of those. I wanted, you know, I know what we need to do and what we need to repair and, you know, make sure we meet those costs, but to kind of make an extra amount of money.
Right.
We can afford that.
absolutely.
That's what I need. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Next item on the agenda is council discussion. I just want to say, Allie and I just came from the Easter egg hunt over at Riverside Park. And I want to give a shout out to Brian Stone.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to leave somebody out here. Brian Stone and Kristen Debo I saw.
Yes.
I'm sure there was
Brittany.
other staff there, so I don't want to leave anybody else out.
Brittany.
That was one of the
Brittany.
coolest events I've seen.
Yes.
And it only lasted about a half an hour, but I'm saying 500-600 people probably
I
out
was
there.
looking at 1,000.
It might have been up closer to 1,000. It was
Holy
packed.
cow.
Those kids were smiling.
Yes.
They blew the horn. The Easter Bunny did, and these little kids ran all over these fields.
Oh, it
looking
was
for things. It was a
amazing.
really
That's
cool
awesome.
thing.
It was
So I just want to,
well thought out.
yeah. So just tell them, amazing job. That was really cool.
And one of the
And there is another one tomorrow night at Grapevine Hollow.
Yep.
And there's one
I
on
can't remember the name of the park.
Thursday as well.
Grapevine Park. What is it?
Vineyard
Park.
Yeah.
And there's one on Thursday as well.
And there's one Thursday too. So that came from that recreation team that thought this would be a great event to get some events across the community more. So they recommended let's do 3 of them.
We do a
So
lot of great events in Evans. That to me,
That was
like
fun.
really cool to
it
watch.
was exhilarating, right? It was like we're waiting.
let's see the mayor and Councilmember Johnson scrambling for eggs.
We're like waiting.
I just think that was fun.
Well, I know the kid that on Facebook, they said there was pretty awesome gifts that were getting. And I'm glad it's during the week too, because it lets them know.
Likewise.
Saturday compete with a lot of other communities.
It's
I'm glad
true.
that they chose to do it in the middle of the week.
And then also, we utilize these events to kind of start the campaign for Heritage Day, because there was a wristband on one of the eggs, so someone got a free wristband, and there was all sorts of other like coupons and like a free jersey and other items that people could win. So it was exciting. So whoever got that, I'm sure is super excited. But there was a lot of eggs, and also thank you to the seniors. Who was that? The group that helped with putting the eggs together.
Yeah, it was our senior group.
The senior group.
That was just one of the neatest events.
Oh yes, it was.
And it was over like that. It was those kids had those eggs picked up in 20
Oh my gosh, it was like a wave swept through the entire field, and it was gone. It was like literally.
A lot of energy.
I could get them to clean their room like that, right?
The same thing with the cleanup for Heritage Day.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's all I had.
Yes, I agree.
Anyone else?
We had a meeting, actually, I'm sorry. So Heritage Day, we did have a meeting. It was on last Friday on the 12th. So far right now, it looks like everything's getting pretty like, we're trying to tie loose ends, but as far as everything looks pretty well thought out, organized. We're starting to send out vendor applications and getting out just the leaflets with the word of what's happening with like for the schools to participate, just like the preliminary aspects of Heritage Day, just to get the community involved and have kind of like you know, at the end, the climactic point, which is like Heritage Day, but a bunch of events kind of set up prior to then. So we're going to start getting those out just into the community, just to start like the scavenger hunt, get, you know, the schools involved with all that fun, you know, history tidbits here and there for the kids to participate in. So we're excited. So it's coming together.
Anyone else? All right, we got about 6 minutes. Start our meeting.